Hello reading friends, welcome to another reading vlog. I went kind of back and forth on whether I should do this one or not because I was really invested into doing a vampire reading vlog, but then I started getting interested in a few different like witchy coven-y type books. So I'm switching tracks. I'm just decided that I will do a witchy reading vlog. So yay! Welcome to a queer witchy reading vlog. So I wanted to do this reading vlog because I started an arc called A Circle Outside or The Circle Outside, something like that. It's supposed to be like a comedy, witchy coven from the 80s, lesbian, yeah, anyways. And I did the mistake of like reading other people's reviews before I started the arc because I just thought the premise sounded really good, and it has an average rating of like 167 or something on Goodreads, and then I read the reviews and they were just like all really bad and mid. So then I was like, I had such low expectations. I was like, should I just DNF it off after like 5%? But I wasn't hating it as much as I felt like the comments were influencing me to hate it. So I decided to keep reading it, see where it goes. It is like after closing on a Tuesday at the pond. It's dark in here now. If this is the start of the vlog, I'm pretty tired. Okay, other books I'm interested in. Awakened by Oswald something. It's like a trans coven. I used to love Juno Dawson's young adult books, and now she has like the adult witchy fantasy book, so maybe I'll check out that, even though I hadn't planned to read that right now. Maybe I'll find some other queer books, witchy books, so that's exciting, that's cool. I'm just gonna kind of see where this vlog takes us, you know? Keep it chill. And I'll keep you updated on what I think. So far, a lot of dialogue in it. Written kind of YA, a bunch of characters. I'm not finding them hard to keep apart so far, even though that's a lot of what the reviewers were saying. But it's 400 pages. But I should finish this week. I'm gonna try to like keep reading. But first, let's go home. Very important. Good morning. It's very early in the morning. I'm going to DNF the arc, but more importantly, we're gonna be having some triple chocolate cheesecake before we open the pond. I don't know. So it is in fact the next day and my battery's already blinking. Wonderful. So I spent the day like sorting in some books from AK Press, and then I was just working on getting all of our August events up on the internet, on our website, on Facebook, on as many platforms as possible, which just like took all the day, the whole day basically. A circle outside. So the reason why I decided to DNF it is because I'm really not in the mood to read a mediocre book. Like I could already feel this is not going to be a favorite. I'm not going to give this above a 3-star at best. So I decided to abandon it. I don't think I'm going to come back to it, to be honest, because there's just so many books that I desperately want to read that it just doesn't come as high up on my priority list. I think this book could be for someone, truly. So it's not like a total bust, but I think the conversations that were taking place were just not very deep or very like radical in their feminism, which also like makes sense because it takes place in the 80s, right? But it's a lot of conversations around like denouncing patriarchy and patriarchy this and patriarchy that, and it didn't feel like it went that far. And yes, I'm DNFing at 15%, but it is a 400-page book, so it's still like a little bit through, enough to give me an idea, you know? And it's kind of like, is the best way to be in community with men somehow, or is it the best way to create our own society as women outside of patriarchal structures that we will inevitably repeat somehow, which was kind of like what I feel the book was going to be about. And then it's about all these different women who are trying to make all their ideas and priorities come together when they're moving into a new house, a new commune together as witches. I think there could be a lot of interesting stuff there. I wasn't very interested in like the type of magic they did. Also, we didn't get a lot of that. I think the voice is just not very clear. Like we got quite a few characters, and while I could separate them, they just did not have a distinct like personality or voice. They all just felt sort of the same, and I think like that really impacts like my feeling of the book. Like I'm just not, I have no ideas of the characters, even though it's written out on the page, which is just like, I don't know what that is. Very strange. So I just decided to DNF it. I don't do that a lot, but I'm gonna do it. And I'm going to be picking up this book instead. I just know it's about Coven of trans witches combating against an AI, which sounds great. I also think like a trans approach to it, something that is critical of AI, is just going to be a lot more fun for me right now. A lot more like important conversations that I'm interested in having at the moment. And of course, trans. So I'm going to pick this up now and hope for better. So then I'm going to close the pond today. I think that's it for now. I'm going to be trying to not do so much footage and talk of like my life and try to focus on the vlog a little bit just to see how that format goes. And then you can tell me if you like it or not, or if you want more of everyday stuff. Pretty tired today. I spent last night looking through old videos from when I was 12 years old, me lip syncing to my computer camera because I found my old computer. So I stayed up a little bit too late. Won't be doing that today. Okay, bye a circle outside. Hello, awakened. Okay, real quick though, look how pretty this book is. Like, so simple, right? But like, so pretty. Gosh, it's really written really like, I wouldn't say Harry Potter, but it's like written in like a whimsical way, but for adults. We started out with like a 31-year-old character called Wilder, seems non-binary. So, it's the next morning. We open in like 15 minutes. And I think I'm actually gonna spend the morning reading. I don't do that a lot here. I usually try to get out like all the emails and stuff first, because I feel like it's just easier to get that over with, and then when there's not a lot of people here and stuff. But I am really into the book. So happy about that. It truly has like, I got cut off yesterday. Did I say anything? It starts off with, for anyone who feels betrayed by J.K. Rowling. And so I was like, oh, is this gonna be like that type of witchy book? Like magically whimsy type of thing? And it kind of is, and I was like in the beginning, I don't know if I wanna read that. But then I got into it and I got reminded of like how much I adore this feeling of like, oh my god, what if I did have magical abilities? What if it just came to me one day? And this is like the same thing that this character goes through. We follow like a few different perspectives so far, and like when a new character is introduced, we get a little bit let into their life as well. But we start off with Wilder, who is non-binary, 31, and really just is committed to being alone, doesn't trust anyone, finds vulnerability very difficult, and wakes up one day with these magical abilities. And then what's their name? I want to call them Quibble. Quibble is like a trans man who's been sent by Artemis, a trans woman, to recruit or like bring Wilder into like their coven basically. And they all have like very specific magical abilities, like they can do one certain thing, but together they can also cast spells like when they put their magic into it. So right now the plot is just Artemis and Quibble trying to get Wilder on board with their coven, but it's not like happening. Wilder doesn't want the help, or because of trauma can't accept the help. And it's so fun because it's like written for the millennial generation that experienced Harry Potter and like loved it, but like with following trans characters, and obviously like the setting is completely different. It takes place in New York, Brooklyn, and it's a lot more political, like with what it's saying. It's like taking a very strong stance in many things. Like there's a line where it says, you know, like ACAB, or talks about gentrification and these things. So it like weaves in, yeah, a lot of things into it as well. I think sometimes when it gets like a little bit too like throwing in words like ACAB without actually involving that conversation into the story, it gets a little bit but then there was like more conversation about it, you know, not just, yeah. Actually, I haven't had coffee yet. I should probably. But yeah, I wasn't planning to read a lot yesterday, but I got to page 57, which I'm a very slow reader. So that's good for me. That's a lot for me that I was reading yesterday. So I think I'm just going to enjoy it. It's so easy to read, but adult witches that become witches in their 30s, trans coven, like I'm so ready for it. And like the opening scene that we read, that was kind of like, you know, sometimes they do that, a different character, a different story. My hair is a mess. It seemed very interesting. So I'm so excited to see where it goes. Yeah. So good so far. I also just realized, like, I do want to read the Juno Dawson book in this vlog. Possibly. But also, Michelle T has another anthology called Witch. I keep talking about this infamous slut vlog that I still haven't completed, so maybe if Michelle T releases another like collection, I'll make a theme around that as well. But yeah, I'm gonna read, drink my coffee, wake up a little bit before the pond opens. Oh, and I forgot to mention that each chapter is tarot cards. But I don't know enough about tarot cards for it to make sense to me. Hello, it's early the next morning. I'm like 3/4 through this book. I really tried to push it yesterday and read as much as possible. So I wanted to get through this vlog quickly, and I have so many thoughts, and I also had so many thoughts along the way reading it. But I'm gonna shower first. And then I'll get back to you with my wet hair to talk about the book. So I am all clean now. Nice. I actually think this is such a topical book because it discusses both like trans people's position in society from like trans people point of view. All of the characters in this, all the trans characters have such unique struggles to their life situation that is also connected to them being trans. Like they all have such different stories and different narratives and motivations and very unique characters, but it shows like different ways that being trans in the world can impact you differently and affect people differently, and I think in such like an interesting way. And the community aspect of it is also very sweet. Like our main character Wilder has such resistance towards opening up and being authentic, and we still don't know what really like their trauma is. I hope it doesn't come to like this big reveal. Like I feel like we should have been let in sooner, but maybe the book is also doing a thing where saying it doesn't really matter, you know, which could be cool. There's around like 100-page mark, 120-page mark, that way you view the way the story is written changes, and I really love that. I was starting to pick up on some things, but yeah, then it just got really interesting, really good, and like the way it's narrated. I also just love how like the book is sectioned into 3 different parts, and it comes from the specific tarot reading that's like predicting the future, and I think that's just really smart. The story starts off kind of being about how Wilder discovers they're awakened and has this magic power, right? And so they get recruited into this trans coven sort of thing, or like gets offered help, I guess. And the first part of the story feels a little bit about that, about their resistance, their need, the dynamics, getting to know the characters. But then the story switches when the characters in the story get introduced to sort of this AI presence and what that is. And the way like the magic is woven into all the characters and the AI and everything, like it's really fascinating and unique and such like a of our time magical take our story, and I really appreciate that and enjoy that. There's obviously like a bunch of reflections on AI and us being consumed with devices and the way AIs operate and learn in different ways, like, and the way we use them. And it's sort of like compared to like a toddler when it's learning, but it's like a toddler has all the information out there in the universe, you know, on the internet. So yeah, it's really fun and interesting, and it's also in like the characters, the way Wilder, they change so drastically when this new threat is introduced. And I found it kind of fascinating because I can totally see it for the character, but I think it can also read as sort of abrupt. I think sometimes like the people sort of discover they have some sort of like magical ability that's like, oh my god, I didn't know I could do this, when it's like convenient. But sometimes you also expect them to be able to do certain things that just they don't have the power to do. So I think they kind of like even each other out. I will say though, like the language, like I was liking it up until I read the line like, I don't know, Wilder let out a breath they didn't know they were holding, which is this like classic saying for like cheesy writing. Or yeah, and that changed my perception of the story a little bit, just because, you know, people in the book world have a perception of that word, like that phrasing. But it's very easy to read, you know, it's like bordering on a young adult reading level if it weren't for like the adult content. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna finish this today. I have like exactly 100 pages left. So I'm just gonna go for it, which is very exciting because that means I will have read this book in 6 days. And it's almost 400 pages. Look at me go. I've been really pushing myself. I'm sure I have more things to say, but also like this vlog, I'm really doubting myself a lot. Like I'm started getting so in my head about how I review books, what is interesting, how do I film a vlog, how do I place a vlog. I've become like very critical and over analytical about so many things in my life lately, like also just socially. Like I have always been analyzing social situations a lot, but I feel like I'm doing it to the extreme, and I don't know why this is happening. Also, I just want to say there was a scene, what I read yesterday evening, that like was like the worst part of the story up until now. It was like like it took my breath away, something that happened, and I feel like I really have to sit with those feelings because I think it says a lot about me that was the part that had me gasping for air. Okay, I'm gonna go to the pond now. See you there. Just kidding, I wanted to show you guys our media unit. We're trying to make like some stuff and things work up there, but I got this huge shelf at some point that is just way too big, and we had it in our tiny hallway for such a long time, and now we finally like moved it and everything, and it's actually so cute. I don't think you can properly see it on camera, but very cute. Oh, that was my iPad. It's kind of nice, right? So I'm like this much through the book. I have this little bit left. Currently no one's in the pond, but we're still open, so I'm gonna be careful. But yeah, it's actually fascinating to read about, because I think what is it, Osworth has like done so well is that we're at the climax, sort of, you know. They're working on like defeating this thing, the AI, and what we're actually seeing is like how queer people navigate being in like emergency or being in a crisis, and the ways that they address interpersonal problems and move forward in a way that's actually more about like sustainability, or like they navigate finding stability in like their movement and with each other and their work, as well as, you know, navigating like really difficult conversation with each other. And so it's so fascinating because the book is written very easy to read, but somehow I feel like the conversations had and the way they're kind of modeling a little bit, in a way, how to care for each other, or at least how to figure out together how to care for each other and talk to each other, is like very introspective and interesting to read about, which I think is what's really cool about this. Like the climax is actually really slow, and I think like if you compare it or to, you know, like radical movements today, and it's all about like being able to rest and being able to have conversations so that we're part of like making the society that we want, like emulating that within the movement itself as well. And I feel like this book is kind of, you know, delving into that a little bit in the climax. And it's actually really cool to read about. Like, it has so much more to it than I think, like, the surface level fun. But it's still just, like, also very surface level fun. So I'm very impressed by this book, and I'm enjoying it so much. Like, the plot is thick, the conversations are so interesting. Some of the characters are, like, kind of relatable, others are not at all. It's actually really funny. I feel like I relate mostly to the character Quibble, but I feel like every person might relate differently. Like, I do not relate to Wilder, the anxious one, at all. I think maybe the biggest flaw I can find in the book, which is also, like, not really a flaw in itself, but the Artemis, who's, like, this trans black woman with a beard, she's, like, has this mother role in the group dynamic, and she feels like a very strong need to be a mother. And I feel like within trans stories, and especially, like, trans people of color stories, and you read books, for example, about ballroom, it is sort of that archetype of this type of character. And I told the line between, like, well, it is kind of a stereotype, but it's also reality for a lot of people, a representation. So I feel, but she's just very nuanced. So I don't think it is technically like a critique, really, that she might be a bit of a archetype. They're all archetypes in one way. I mean, like, the anxious non-binary person. Hello. I got cut off for a second, but the anxious non-binary person, Wilder, and, like, I guess the rich, jolly trans man character, I don't know. I'm just really enjoying it. I'm excited to finish it. I'm kind of like, should it just be a 5 stars? Like, I think a lot of the books that I gave a higher rating to, or like 5 stars, for example, I often find so many flaws in them. But I think the book is so good that the flaws don't matter, which I think is a true testament to a book being really good, you know? So I'm gonna keep reading. I'm gonna finish this today. I have 63 pages left. And then we pick the next book. Oh my god, so exciting. So I'm tired. Oh my god, it's the next day. We open in like 5 minutes, so I finished Awakened last night. I was really hoping to finish it before I left the pond yesterday, but I didn't manage. And I liked the ending. It was not like groundbreaking or revolutionary or something I haven't seen before. Like, it was just like, it was a good ending, and I'm happy with it. And honestly, I could give it 4.75 if I was being petty, but I don't know. I'm feeling generous, and I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I am giving it 5 stars. It was really fun. So many good parts. I think I've said everything that I kind of wanted to say about this book. Yeah, and there's like 3 other trans women except Artemis, so I feel like less mixed feelings about the stereotyping. You know, there's so many different types of trans representation in this. So I've decided to make this exclusively like a trans witches reading vlog. So then I was thinking, Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I was never really thinking of picking this up because it verges onto like the type of popular fiction that I just feel like I'm not going to enjoy. But here's the thing. Juno Dawson's book, young adult horror book called Say Her Name, was one of the books that, or if not the book, that made me join BookTube when I was like 16 or something. Because I read it, I was in London and I read it and I just like absolutely loved it. And that really like spurred on me starting to read a lot more. I think it's the first book I ever logged on Goodreads. And that was way before like I knew I was queer, I knew that Juno Dawson was trans, like it was just like a different time. But then I read Clean by her and Wonderland and that other one that I can't remember. Like I read her young adult books. But this feels very different. And I was never really planning to read this, but I'm thinking like, you know, Juno Dawson and I, we have a history. You know, and it might be fun. Like, I just think this will be a good time. I started reading like the bad reviews of it yesterday, and I can't believe I made that mistake twice. Like, do not do that, Wilma. Just read the book. And the bad reviews almost made me like not want to read it. But then I read the really good reviews, and then they convinced me to read it. I'm like, wow, I'm like nothing. I'm so influenced. So this is like 460 pages, which is the longest book I've read in like 3 years. I don't know. So wish me luck, I guess. Still like a paperback, so we'll see. I think there's only one trans character in here. Apparently they don't get like a POV, but let's see. This was very successful, so hopefully this will be completely pouring outside. So wet everywhere. Rainy days are so unpredictable because sometimes people want to go to a bookstore because, like, where else would you want to be when it's raining outside? It's like cozy, it's warm, it's, you know, you can curl up in a blanket and book and it's so nice and it's a Sunday. Like, I would love to be at a bookstore on a rainy Sunday, you know? But people need to make it here. That's where the problem arises. So it could be very busy, it could be very quiet. You can never know. Hello, it's the next day. I have a free day today, which is very exciting. But I have an interview at 12, which is like in 1.5 hours from like with a Norwegian LGBT plus magazine. And I need to like prep the questions that I got from them, just like because I haven't looked through it yet. And I want to be like a little prepared because it's about queer literature. And like some of the questions are very out of my knowledge reach, you know, like I'm by no means an expert. I'm literally just a person who's been making videos and reading and like faking it at owning a bookstore. Like that's it. You know, I don't know anything about actual queer literature, but by no means an expert. I did some research yesterday. I'm gonna write down some of my answers for the questions so that I'm like a little bit prepared at least. I am only like 50 pages through this. It's such a thick book. And I didn't know like anything about it before I started it. So I'm still just like figuring out what it is actually about because we got like a 25 years in the past point of view with all these women or like girls who are being initiated into a coven. And then we get like now time kind of some of these women grown up where they are. Some of them have kind of broken up with the coven that they grew up in. One person has like created a new coven that's more like inclusive and accepting and has different beliefs. Another person like is not part of it at all. Another person is trying to like ignore their gifts. So all these witches are in like different places. There's a lot of like references or innuendos to tumultuous things going on that we don't really know what is. There's a reference to like a war that happened that we don't really know what is. Like a witches war, I assume. There's also a warlock coven in here. I don't know how they're going to come in play. So there's a lot of like tidbits of information that we're given, and I have no clue what the plot is going to be. I would assume that it's like something about the new coven and the old coven disagreeing or being at war with another, or I don't know what it's going to be about. I don't know what the themes are going to be. Like, I'm literally just getting to know the characters and trying to wrap my head around it. So we're still like in the very early stages. But Juno Dawson has like a very, like, she's a very practiced writer. Like, she's written so many books, and it's very clear how, I guess, like, easy it comes to her. It's very engaging, easy to read, but also like fun. So I'm enjoying it, but I'm not like in it yet. I also yesterday decided to read this, Queering Anarchism, which is obviously not part of this vlog, and I'm not going to talk about it. But we have like a gender theory book club at the pond. It's like community run, and I haven't like participated in it, but I've been looking for an opportunity to do so. And then I forgot that I could just like join this one, but it's in a week, and this is like verging on theory, kind of like it's a little bit heavier nonfiction. I don't read nonfiction a lot, so I've set myself up to reading like 30 pages a day, which I think is gonna, you know, take me like an hour and a half a day if I want to actually learn something and consume the information into my brain, absorb the information. So that's what's going on. Mondays, you know, I do like laundry, change the bunny toilets, vacuum, do these like home chore things. So I'm hoping to do that, read, try to have some chill time. I guess that's the reading bit. And then also I need to prepare for the interview now. So it's about, I need to pump myself with some coffee because I need to get going mentally. Wish me luck for the interview. Okay, it's late. We went outside with the bunnies, which was a hoot and a half. I read like my pages in Queer and Anarchism, but like I really have not read a lot in I don't even know where the book is. By the bed. In Her Majesty's Royal Coven. But yeah, I'm getting a better understanding of what the book is about, the characters. There is like a prophecy about this Leviathan that's going to destroy the world. And there's all these tensions between the covens, the history of this like friend group. I'm excited to see where it goes. I feel like there's going to be so much plot that just keeps evolving. So I don't want to talk too much about it because I think it's just not going to be very interesting. It's one of those where like the plot is moving and unfolding as you go. But I'm really enjoying it. There's been some like Spice Girl references, which I read in like one of the scathing reviews that it was too much. So I don't know how many it would be, but I think it makes a lot of sense for Juno Dawson. I don't have a problem with it. So, but yeah, right now there is one witch that's gay as far as I know, and the others have all been in like straight seeming relationships. I know there's a trans character at some point, but it's not as like queer or LGBTQ as I would have liked it to be, but I sort of knew that already. I'm excited to see how the trans character appears, all that. Gonna read before bed. Hopefully I'll be able to read more tomorrow, but seeing as I'm reading this at the same time, I honestly don't know how I'm gonna get through this 400 page plus book in like a week. So hello, it's a few days later. I was going to update you on my thoughts, on my feelings, my analyzations, but time just went by. I got caught up in doing my job, doing stuff and things. I changed the window, the highlighted books display today for Pride Week in Copenhagen that's coming up. Just a lot of stuff, emails, making drinks, admin, social media. Not very fancy. So I had read not much in this book when I had my reflections about feminism and transness and witchery. I think there is a connection here. There's something to it. You know, and I had like so many thoughts where I was like making new synapses in my brain, if that's what it's called. But then I kind of lost it. I should have just either recorded it straight away, which I didn't really have the opportunity to do, or, you know, type it down on my little computer, write it down so that I actually remembered and I could tell you about it. But there was this very interesting essay in here that kind of talked about the different stages of feminist movements, how they evolved, like what their focus was. and how that connected into like trans feminism, basically. And I kept thinking that was so interesting that I was reading that chapter at that time, because I'm reading specifically like trans witch books, because witches are like, you know, historically known for opposing power, being like a sisterhood. That was also references in this essay, like a sisterhood of women. And that is what like feminism was at a certain time. It was about like sisterhood, about community, and then, you know, evolving that into like, well, who belongs in the sisterhood and who doesn't. And I think witches also being like a sort of community, and ties into like anarchism, I think, in some way. I just find it really interesting to be reading this book, because it is, I think it comes off as like a feminist novel, sort of discussing, there are so many different types of witches in this book, and women who have different views, both on who they like inherently are as witches, the power they hold, and who they align themselves with. Because there is like several witches who are not aligned with anything, they're just doing kind of work in their community. They call it mundanes with humans, and believe that, you know, they're equal, but they're a bit blessed with like this power so that they can help each other and protect each other in different ways. And then there's, you know, some of the witches in this have like created intersectional coven with only people of color or queer people. And that coven is run more like with an activist type of mindset and intention, but they still like adhere to, I'm literally giving you the finger, I'm so sorry, adhere to oppressive hierarchies. And then of course it's the coven that's the big one that's associated with the church, the state, not the church, but you know, the state has like its own prisons and emulates a lot of the structures in power, but they're witches, so they're kind of doing their own work, but it's still like just going with whatever the state, the government has in store. And then what's so interesting about all of this, like in both the essay about feminism, is that there's this trans kid that's incredibly powerful. And it not only does it start the discussion of like who believes in transness, and in this book, basically, women are more powerful like witches than men are powerful warlocks, you know? So they're kind of like, this doesn't make sense that a warlock is born with this much power, and then it comes out, or actually outed, like I was a big trigger warning for outed. This whole situation is handled so poorly, my God, that she is a woman, a witch, possibly, and then it kind of unfolds as like, well, that explains it, why she's so powerful. But of course it's like, well, isn't it like biology? Even though the witch thing is very spiritual, it also kind of has a lot of religious undertones, which I don't really understand, I guess, in a way. But it's just, I guess, I have a lot of thoughts about the connection between this and feminism, and the fact that there's this like, how trans people and trans power in so many ways ends up like disrupting a lot of the ideas we both have as like society, and how we work together and what we believe in, like forces us to evolve and think about things differently. So I just thought it was really interesting. I think there's more to it, you know, like there's more reflection there, and I had a lot more eloquent thoughts when I first read that essay, and I was like connecting it in my brain. But then it sort of dwindled over the days, as things do if you don't write them down or repeat them out loud. And then there was also this one part where one person was talking about the witch hunts and stuff, and I've forgotten what I was going to say about that. But so I'm enjoying this a lot. I've been reading so much more than I thought. I'm like, this is what I read, and this is what I have left. Staying up way too late last night. I stayed up until 1, the night before that until 2, just reading. I am fascinated by this book. I think it's partly written a little bit like for anyone, and accommodating like cis people a little bit too much, I think, because I've just read some of Juno Dawson's other books, you know, I know she can go harder. Things are handled poorly, and the people who are talking about Theo, this trans witch, are all like cis people, and their conversations are just not very interesting to me. I think what the book is saying on a deeper level, I find very interesting, especially when I've read like Queering Anarchism, and when you view it through like different feminist perspectives or ways of working together and stuff. Like, I think it becomes interesting. I think everything I'm putting into it makes it very interesting, but on just reading it, it's quite surface level. But I am curious to see where it goes. It's just like very action-packed. I love Juno Dawson's like writing. I think she has a great balance of like when to add like a plot point so the story moves forward, and when to like delve into the characters' like thoughts and mind. And it's just the tempo is really, really good, I think. And the characters are so distinct. Like there was a part where I'm like reading things that I'm like, oh, this is kind of problematic. It's written in third person, by the way. I'm reading things that are kind of problematic, but then I remember, I'm like, I'm in Helena's perspective. Like, it makes sense that she would think this way, or it's written this way. And they all have, like, very distinct voices, which I find really fun. But it's all also very Juno Dawson, so I'm enjoying it a lot. We have the second book in the shop, but I'm not going to read that. I just think it's funny when you read books that end up connecting themes or like in such an interesting way, and I wonder if it's happening because I'm reading them at the same time that I'm seeing the connection, or if it's like would have happened anyways, you know. I like it when things align like that, and it enriches my experience of like both the books, I think. Yeah, I guess I've never given much thought to like witches and historical and feminism, and then adding transness and transfeminism or intersectional feminism on top of that. It's very cool. I like it a lot. I had so many thoughts. Like, I keep seeing, once I do these vlogs that are like themed vlogs, I see so many books that I could be putting into the vlog. And then I just go, no, Wilma, you need to reel it in. Because I keep like adding things on my TBR, you know? Like, it could be reading Witch by Michelle T. I'm sure there are trans stories in there. I could be reading, I found this other book. It is a nonfiction book, and it's Becoming Dangerous, Witchy Femmes, Queer Conjurers, and Magical Rebels. Like, this just feels like the next book that I'm supposed to be reading after reading, like, my trans witch books and the queering feminism, like, queering anarchy. I feel like this would be the next one, but I can't. There's too many books on my TBR. And then there's Witchy, Witchy Volume 2, which is like a trans witch as well, comic book that I read a long time ago, and I have the second volume too, so I could read that. Just keeps popping up more and more witch books. But yeah, I'm hoping to finish the Juno Dawson book tomorrow. But yeah, it's been quite like intense having this change from me working in the store full time while this is at the internship. Because now I'm trying to like finish 2 books in 1 week, and they're both kind of like intense in their own ways. And I'm trying to take care of basically everything in the shop. So I'm a little overwhelmed, and I feel myself becoming like less myself because I'm a little bit stressed. It's not a nice feeling. It's Burgers and Survivor tonight. Fun, exciting. We're gonna start a new season. I know this has some plans for it, but I'm not really sure what season we're starting. We're watching an old season in preparation for season 50, so that I'm all caught up. Oh, I can show you this. We did get a copy of A Circle Outside, the book that I DNF'd at the beginning of this vlog. I actually pre-ordered, I think, 3 copies of this book, and then I canceled 2 of the books after I DNF'd it, because I'm like, I don't know about this. Honestly, I'm still considering if I should pick it up, but I feel like connecting it to the feminism thing, I think this one, you know, was much more like second wave feminism inspired, rather than feeling like that current radical thing that I wanted from my trans femme stories, which is why I made it trans, by the way. So it will be a little bit more radical somehow. Anyways. It's a few days later. You can tell how sunburnt I am from like yesterday doing the book stand at the Alternative Pride. It was a mess. I've been doing too much work. I felt very like disconnected from myself, showing up authentically. I feel like I'm disassociating a little bit, and like I don't know how to do the same work but not overwork myself. Tried really hard not to internalize capitalism. It's a lot. I'm all over the place, but I finished the book, Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I enjoyed it. You know, I'm gonna give it a solid 4 stars. This was a good time for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the reflections I had on it. I particularly enjoyed reading Queering Anarchism alongside it. It just felt like it enriched my experience and my thoughts on the book while I was reading it. There's a lot that happens, you know, and the last 30 pages or something, or not even that, like 50 pages, there's so many, like, not really plot twists, but major things that happen that is just makes it very page-turnery and very action-packed. But there are some choices, right, like, that are just, the last chapter, I was really hyped. I was thinking of, like, reading the second book in the series straight off the bat, you know? But now I'm like, the last chapter really made me go, why did you have to end it like that? It doesn't feel like the hook that maybe Juno Dawson wanted it to be. My two major critiques of this book, in terms of, like, actually what's wrong with it, I've just been filled in my head with, like, everything that people have been writing reviews on, like the fact that, you know, it's about women not fighting each other, but then women are fighting each other. But I'm like, I think that's the point, you know? I don't mind that Theo, the trans person, doesn't get a perspective, because it's like, it is about Theo, but it's not really about Theo. It's about, like, cis women's internal processing, you know? And I think that's fine, especially when it's a trans author. Like, this is a trans author. Like, the whole perspective, all of those cis women, is from a trans perspective, you know? Like, I don't think that's a fair critique of the book. But I will say, though, that the book sort of lays out a little bit this perspective on trans femininity, and I guess any transness being more validated if the person has perceived themselves as being a girl or a woman, like, basically for their entire life, and lays out that as a legitimate bar to tell if someone's trans or not. Like, not all trans people know that they've been trans since they were a kid. Like, it's just not true. And I would even say, like, maybe for the majority, it's not true. So the fact that it's like, that's the thing that convinces everyone, like, oh, Theo must be a girl because she's always known. And that's, like, makes me go, not true. I didn't like that was, like, a big convincing factor, because we also get this other trans woman's perspective, and she says the same thing, so it sort of piggybacks off of that. And I didn't like the way the book talked about that specifically. There's a lot of references to, like, I sat on my IKEA sofa, I put on my TJ Maxx, is that what I call it? Yeah, TJ Maxx sports bra or whatever, and it's, like, a lot of references to, like, Brad specifically, in a way that at first I found it a little bit quirky, but then it just felt like the Juno Dawson was, like, trying to be relatable and make it more realistic, but it wasn't really having the desired impact. It felt a little bit off. So I'm giving it a solid 4. I had a good time. I will definitely continue with the series, but not right afterwards like I was thinking. So the next book, I already packed it in my bag, will be The Sapling Cage. I wasn't expecting to read this, but I changed the reading blog to Trans Witches. This is a trans witch book. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick it up. Both of these are the first in a trilogy. I am excited to read this one after this book, just because I am pretty sure that Margaret Killjoy is an anarchist. So following my trans witches, trans feminism, anarchist journey that I'm on, I think this will be valuable to read from maybe someone, trans author who's a bit more radical in their thinking. So I'm excited for this. Have absolutely no clue what it's about. I think maybe it's more coming of age. Believe it's still an adult book, but who knows? Tomorrow's Monday, so I'm gonna be free, and I'm gonna try to like properly relax this time, because I have not been relaxing for a while, and I'm struggling to relax. So that's that. Close the shop now. I'm fully into watching Smosh Summer Games, so that's what we're doing. Hello, it's the next day. I just got my tea shot this morning. It was a whole ordeal. Like, when I went to the pharmacy to get it, right when I got to the cashier, it was my number that was being called. The system shut down, and I had like 10 minutes until my appointment was going to be. So I had to run to a different pharmacy. I got late, but they gave me a new appointment, thankfully. And now my butt hurts, but everything is good. I went shopping and got ice cream to celebrate. I got a new shirt. I'll show you later. I got some ice cream. It always helps to like walk around afterwards. I started reading The Sapling Cage yesterday. I think I got to like page 30. So far, it's like really not for me. Like, these books that I'm reading now, they're progressively getting more like medieval or more high fantasy with their witchery. The vibe is like Not for me. Honestly, I haven't read anything else by Margaret Killjoy before. So far, it's not very well written. Not my type of writing style. Seems very surface level, but we'll see where it goes. Maybe I'll get into it. I really hope so. I haven't read like this many thick books after each other for a long time. My ice cream is melting. Licorice and strawberry. I'm gonna chill in the bed a little while before I go up and get going on stuff and things. Okay, I have to be honest, I feel really like out of touch with reality. I'm finding it really difficult to like stay myself and be authentic. I think everything's just way too much for me right now. But here we are, vlogging. I'm on page 66 of this book. I'm still not a fan of the writing style, but I am like getting more into it. I'm more intrigued about the story. It is about this, in the beginning, I guess, young boy. Transness is not really a thing. I don't know how to explain it. But who lives in this little town. There's these witches who are kind of bad, but also neutral in a way. But they're very demonized by the knights who collect tax and sort of control the kingdom in some way. And so our main character makes a deal with their best friend, this girl who is supposed to be recruited by the witches. And she's like, okay, but they don't know who you are. Like, what if we swap places? You really want to be a knight. I don't want to be a knight. I want to be a witch. So they do that. And now our main character kind of pretends to be like their best friend and is taking her place and is now going to train to become a witch, kind of. We get to like know all the different characters who are in this group or like coven sort of that picks her up. The magic is sort of based on the nature and ley lines and following like storms and energy of the earth. We're open currently. There is something happening where the trees and the woods are being frozen and something is doing it. So now they're on a mission to figure out why is the woods freezing, etc. So this is what's happening. I don't know what else is happening. I'm getting more into it, but I'm not here. I'm gonna see if I can read some more today. It's super easy to read. And I'm more intrigued since like the plot started. I'm not really interested in the premise, but I am interested in see what goes on. I'm gonna drink my coffee, try to wake up. Oh, and I forgot to say this is my new sweater. How cute! Isn't it nice? Hello, lovely people. As you can tell, I got a haircut this morning. It's my first like mullet type hairstyle. I don't think it suits me, honestly. I just don't think this is my vibe. But it's been like 4 days since I updated that one morning that I was like, I'm not doing well. The last few days have been like really, really intense. It's really wearing down on me to be like mostly at the pond alone. So yeah, I'm tired. It's the wrap up of the vlog. I finished this book finally. It took me like 6 days to read it, probably. I'm giving it 2.25 stars. Oh my god, I didn't like it. And I feel so sad. This is my first Margaret Killjoy and I had high hopes for it. Also because like these two were such a blast and I was just really excited to like keep the train going, reading something by like an anarchist author after I've been reading Queering Anarchism and just making so many connections between transness and witchcraft and how like feminism is connected with witches and like the history of witches and having something like trans feminism or a trans femme person coming into that, like shaking things up and altering perceptions of like what sisterhood is in a way. Obviously it doesn't, but in a way for a lot of the characters. I was just like really excited for this for so many reasons. Here's my gripe with it. I have so many critiques for even to start. I'll start with the positives. I really liked the pacing of the book. I think like the actual story is good. I like how it hit all the marks and like it was well constructed. I liked sometimes like where the conversations were going. Like I liked Laurel. I think. Laurel, I liked her thoughts about like, oh, do I want to transition physically? Like, do I want to change my physical body because I want other people to respect me as a woman? Or is it like something that I inherently need? It was like 2 paragraphs throughout the whole books at most, and I found like that maybe the most interesting conversation in here. I also enjoyed kind of like seeing how the witches worked and like functioned as a group, and I can see like kind of the anarchist ways of working there, because even though Laurel is like a whelp, like what you are before you become a witch, even though she's a whelp, there's no like real hierarchy within the witches. It's just like you're being taught, you know, so you're not at the same like practice level as us, but there's no like real hierarchy, and when they're making decisions, they're all kind of doing it together, and it goes slower because of that, but it like is presented in a very nice way. And then there are these knights who are taking like a different type of anarchist approach called Ilthurian. So I see like the anarchism in it. It was just so classical in so many ways, right? Like this is a very traditional fantasy setting. It feels like medieval fantasy world with like these duches and the horses and the nature. Like it feels just medieval in so many ways, like taverns, you know, that kind of thing. Plus the book is sort of a travel situation, kind of like Lord of the Rings or Wheel of Time, where they're moving from one location to another, which I just don't like in books, no matter the context. I just don't like travel books like that, like, or journey books, I guess what I'm getting at. It's written like a cozy fantasy, but the stakes are so high. It's too high to be a cozy fantasy. Like the language, the demeanor of the book is very cozy fantasy, but it's like people are dying, the stakes are super high, which felt like kind of a conflicting vibe or experience to be reading. I also just don't really like cozy fantasy. I just want to put that out there. The vibe of cozy fantasy, it's just like, it's so boring. I feel like the language had so little personality. I cannot believe this, we got so little thoughts from Laurel's like mind. It was just like, this is happening, and there's so much action, and sometimes like huge things, major things are happening in like short paragraphs, and it's just like everything is happening way too fast. And we just get so little, like, what are you thinking? And when we do, it just feels so basic. Like, the book is not digging deep, like, whatsoever. And it's really, really frustrating, honestly. Like, I want to get to know Laurel more. Like, and a lot of the character development, I think, is done really well through the action. But I also want to know what they're thinking. And there's just so little thoughts. It's just, this happened, this happened, this happened. So, yeah, I feel really sad to not be liking this book, to be honest. Because I feel like the premise and the way structure of the book had so much potential. I even like the way the magic works, but it's just like, it's really disappointing, honestly. So I started reading this, right? DNF'd it at some point, maybe like this far through. It would have been fun if I kind of read them in this order or something. This is like medieval fantasy, technically epic, but this would be like old-timey. And then you have like 80s witches. And then you have today's day witches. And then this, because of the AI, feels a little bit futuristic. Different eras of trans witches. Well, technically not trans. It was kind of fun to be reading such different witch stories and different takes on it. I felt like they were all radical in their own right, but in very different ways. And obviously, like, I read the best one first, which was a bummer. And then second best, and the one I didn't enjoy. I really appreciate you joining me for this trans witch reading vlog. I feel like sometimes I burn out. By the time I'm reading the third book, I lose steam a little bit. But also this time, just life happened in a very unfortunate way. Let me know if you read any of these. Your thoughts on them. Probably be reading the sequel soon. Yeah, I hope you have an amazing brilliant day. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. And I wish you all the best. Thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.